welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to be going through my November wrap up. So if my face is a bit red, I don't think it's too bad anymore. It's because I just had to do a presentation thing and I didn't like it. So yeah, so November was a really strange month for me. I had so much to do, and so the first week I read so much. I read so many middle grades, and then I started off a week really good, and then I couldn't read anything for the whole week, and then it was just a bit all over the place. There was days that I didn't read for 5 days, and then there was just days where I was reading 400 pages. And so yeah, so the stats are pretty decent stats, but I just feel like there was so many days that I didn't read anything, so it's really strange. In November I read 4,167 pages across 11 books, and I listened to 73.25 hours of audiobooks. That is the most I have done so far this year. That is probably one of the highest amount of audiobook listening I have done just ever, full stop. So for genres, I read 2 contemporary books, 7 fantasy books, 1 graphic novel, and 1 sci-fi. So then for the intended audience, 4 of them were adult, 2 of them were YA, and then 5 of them were middle grade, which is a huge amount of middle grade. I don't usually read that much, but it was Believe-a-thon, and I dedicated the whole first week of the month to reading middle grade books. But then for the ratings, it was actually pretty okay. It wasn't bad, but also there was nothing that completely blew me away. It was 8 4-stars and 3 3-stars. So as I said, nothing incredibly amazing, but it wasn't as though I hated everything. That gives an average rating of about 3.72. Let's actually talk about these books. As I said, the first 5 books of the month I read in the first week, and I dedicated that to Believe-a-thon. So I do have a whole vlog of me trying these middle grade books, and I go more in depth in my thoughts and kind of how I feel about middle grade in general in that video. So if you want that, go check it out. So I'll keep these kind of reviews brief, but I still want to talk about them. The first book was The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, and I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It feels like a million years ago that I read this. It was a very sweet book. It was very adorable at parts, but I think I went into it with the wrong expectations of what it was going to be. I kind of presumed, I suppose, that it was going to just be about this magical family and them, and it was just going to be around them, but there's actually multiple point of views in here, and I wasn't really prepared for that. So what the story is about is it follows a young girl who, when she is a baby, she is left out to be a sacrifice to the witch in the woods. And so then the witch comes along, and she is always confused why this town always is leaving these kids out to die. And so she takes them, she feeds them starlight, and she brings them to loving homes. She feeds Luna moonlight, which gives her magic powers, and the story goes from there. And I think that synopsis is a little deceptive maybe, because there's also another point of view of a boy who later man, because it follows many years of time, and how he wants nothing more than to stop this. Really doesn't like it, but no one else seems to have that many issues with it. Obviously it's very sad, but it's just a part of life for them, and he doesn't really want to accept this. Yeah, so my main issues was just the plot in general. There wasn't really much of it, and it was just kind of very different to what I expected. I didn't like the way it went with the magic storyline, and I do love the found family in there. That is the best part of it. There's this kind of swamp monster kind of a thing. There is a very tiny dragon, and it's adorable. And then there's obviously our witch, and there's Luna, and they are a really cute family, but there's definitely some parts of the plot that I just did not care for whatsoever. There were some really nice small reveals of how things were interconnected that we were learning about in the story, and obviously I'm trying to keep that kind of spoiler free, but if you read the book you probably know what I'm talking about. But there's stories told in the book, and the way that connected to the story I really enjoyed. But yeah, so overall I liked it. It was solid, just kind of not enough plot for me. So then book number 2 that I read in the month was Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow by Benjamin Dean, and I give this a 3 stars. This is a book that has been getting a whole lot of hype, and I think rightly so. It is a very important book, and I do see why so many people do love it, but unfortunately it was just not for me. It was very heartwarming and it was very cute, but it just didn't have a lot of substance to it. It didn't have a lot of plot. It kind of just didn't keep me engaged and intrigued the whole time. And then my other kind of main issue with it was the characters themselves. I loved the characters. I thought they were adorable and they were really sweet and cute, but they felt like 8-year-olds, not 12-year-olds. That was kind of another one of my big issues with it, was they felt very young. And I mean, some of the stuff they do in here, obviously you're like, that is so bad, but the way they react to then these situations that they get themselves into is just, you're almost a teenager. How can you not think this through? It's been a while since I've been 12, almost 13, so I can't say too much about it, but so like I could just be misremembering my childhood wrong, but things like, you know, getting to a city and all of that, like, it's pretty straightforward, and they just like were coming up with these elaborate schemes that just did not make sense to me. And as I said, they read very young. Then book number 3 of the month was King and the Dragonflies by Case and Calendar, and again this was another 4 out of 5 stars. It was a kind of lower 4 stars though, and I feel like I have a lot of similar feelings about this and Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow. Very important stories to be told and to be out there for young kids who are questioning their sexuality or, you know, family members, all of that. Very important stories to have out for those reasons. There's just like not a lot of plot there. I did prefer this one slightly to Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow. I think it was just slightly more emotional to me. I got slightly more attached. I still wasn't like completely so involved in it, but I preferred it slightly to Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow, but I don't think middle grade contemporary is a thing that I particularly enjoy. Then number 4 was Brightstorm by Vashti Hardy, and this is I haven't told you what any of these books are about, I just realized. So Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow follows a boy called Archie, and his parents are getting a divorce and he doesn't know how to fix things, and he then one day discovers a pride flyer and he thinks that this is what will fix everything, and so him and his friends make a elaborate plan to go to Pride. And King and the Dragonflies is one where King's brother has recently died and he is obviously struggling with that. He thinks his brother has turned into a dragonfly, and before he died he said something to King which kind of changed some of the relationships that he had with people, and it's kind of just a story about accepting that. Brightstorm followed 2 siblings who are the children of this explorer, and he gets into some sort of an accident when he is on their ship, the Brightstorm, trying to get to South Polaris, and he is accused of kind of stealing fuel from this other ship, and so everything is taken from these siblings, and so they are kind of just left in a really terrible situation, and they want to kind of prove that their father did nothing wrong. And so then they manage to take their place on an exhibition to try and get to South Polaris as well, to try and figure out what actually happened. And I really like this one. This one was another 4 out of 5 stars. This was a higher 4 stars though, and I think this was my favorite middle grade I read during the week. A lot going for it, I think. It had some really sweet, endearing characters, and it had again another really great round family element to it, and some of like the really like side characters maybe weren't so well developed, and as well as the villain was very, you know, cartoon, mwahaha, and didn't have a lot of depth, just, you know, bad for the sake of being bad, which, like, I mean, it's a middle grade, I suppose it's fine. It did actually have like a pretty good world building. Like, I was really intrigued by how the world works. I really enjoyed the writing and the descriptions and the world building involved. Yeah, and so I was kind of like just surprised by the depth that Vashti Hardy could go into in world building and character and also having a plot. So I think she balanced it all really well in such a short space of time, and for that reason it was one of my favorite books that I read during the middle grade reading. Our last middle grade book I read was A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison, and I gave this another 4 out of 5 stars, and I don't have much to talk about. So this is about 3 sisters who are cursed, and they only find out about this curse, and the middle sister wants to go adventuring, and this is obviously going to stop her going on adventures because if they leave the island they will die, and so she wants to try and figure out a way to break that curse. And when like looking back through like the notes I wrote, I literally the only note I have written is I love these sisters. So that was very helpful. But yeah, I feel like very similar things that I would say about Brightstorm. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the family relationship. Not even found family, it was an actual like sibling relationship, though there was also a sibling relationship in Brightstorm. I really loved the sister dynamic in here. It was so damn sweet, and definitely, if you know me, I love a good old sister relationship in books. I did like the plot and I did like where it went. There was a couple of issues that I had with the plot in the end and the sense that it made, but overall I did really enjoy it, and I'm interested in where the second book will go, because I feel like where it left off is very easy to not pick things up from there, and I think maybe it was like a little too clean of an ending. So I'm curious how that will affect like the world and the sisters. So I will definitely continue that series. And I read Black Sun, but I'm gonna come back to that in a minute. So after that I read Extraordinaries, which is a comic by V.E. Schwab, and I give it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't have too much to say about a comic because they're very short. I got the Illumicrate version, which I don't have with me. Yes, this is a graphic novel that takes place between the first and second book, and it is following a whole new character, and she can see people's deaths, and she sees who is supposed to kill her every time she looks in her reflection or something like that, and so she wants to stop her fate from happening. It was so damn good. I was so interested, and I have spoken before that I'm not the biggest comic graphic novel reader, but I have read her Shades of Magic comics and I did enjoy those, but I definitely think this was better than those. I think the pacing was better, and the plot and how it was done, it didn't feel too rushed or anything like that. So yeah, so I really enjoyed how this one worked out. On her Instagram she put up like a picture of like all the different editions of it and all of that, and I like said in the comics, I was like, because it has volume 1 on the side, I was like, is there going to be more volumes, and if not, like, will we see them in the third villains book? And she actually responded to me and she said that there will be no more volumes, but that the characters in here will be in the third villains book. So I'm very excited for that. And then I'm going to mention 2 other ones, and I'm literally going to mention them. I'm not going to talk in detail about these because there's going to be a vlog coming, a very special vlog. And so that is How the King of Elfhame Learned Hate Stories by Holly Black, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Kind of short snippets of Cardan's life, but all of them interlink into one story. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the art in there, and I'm not the biggest fan of the Cruel Prince series. I really like the second book, but the first book I didn't really like. The third book I was okay with, and this one I really enjoyed it. I think the kind of like short, really like glimpses of that kind of his like life and all of that really worked well with Holly Black's writing style. So yeah, so I really enjoyed that. 4 out of 5 stars. And I will be talking more about this because this is one of the finalists in the Goodreads YA category, which is what I was reading it for. And then the other one that I read for the Goodreads video was Anyway the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell, which is the 3rd book in the Simon Snow series. I'm not going to talk really about it, as I said, because this one is difficult to talk about anyway because it's the final book in a series, and I didn't really like the second book. I didn't like where the story went and how she dealt with some issues, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to pick this up, but then I was like, okay, I have to pick it up. And you know what? I'm not mad that I did. I did give it 3 stars, which the first book was a 4-star for me, the second book was a 2-star, and so this one was a 3, which feels right. I feel like it is better than the first. It is better than the second book, but I don't think it was as good as the first book. And I think it just immediately, like from the start, it dealt with the issues from the second book that I didn't like, how she dealt with them. Immediately way better. Immediately. And there wasn't that much plot. That is like the main issue with it. There wasn't much plot happening. But overall, I did enjoy it. I like the characters. They're not anything special, but I enjoy them. Again, the world, a lot of it is just built off Harry Potter. So yeah, so like if you didn't like the second book and are unsure about this, I would say give it a go if you like want to. But like I don't think you're missing anything if you don't. And so then we have 3 more books to talk about, which again were in another vlog, and that was the reading books written by Rebecca vlog. And so in that I read Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, and The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And I varying opinions on these books. So the first one I read was Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, and I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. It is a lower 4 out of 5 stars, but still 4 out of 5 stars. We're not going to take that from it. I can definitely see why this is a book with such varying reviews. You know, people give it 2 stars or they give it 5 stars. I mean, I give it 4, but you get what I mean. Like, I feel like everyone I see either loves it or hates it, and I can definitely see why, because it definitely did not have a lot of plot. And I do like a bit of plot, but if the world building and the characters are interesting enough to keep me interested, then I am okay. That is definitely the case for this book. If it had like a really fascinating plot and if it had like a lot of action, you know, just like in the middle somewhere, it probably would have been a 5 star. But that was not the case for this. It was very much just a journey, so all the characters could be in place for the next book. And I'm not mad about that, and I will definitely read the second book, but yeah, I can definitely see why some people would be frustrated that it definitely felt like just the beginning of a story and not a whole book of itself. I said I really did enjoy the characters. There's 4 point of views, but this, like the 4th one, didn't really matter much. But one of the point of views, I just did not care. I did not care about what happened to her whatsoever. So that also definitely lowered my rating. I am interested by the way her story ended in the book, so maybe in the second one I will enjoy her point of view more, but I'm unsure about that. But the other 2 points of views, which they actually connect very early on in the story, and I'm kind of thinking that might have been one of the things that would have made me enjoy it more, is if we had kind of interactions earlier on, because I don't think the characters met the other character at all, like at all, which is very strange. And so it did feel like pretty disjointed. So it was just them trying to get to this one moment and this one place. And I thought the 2 characters that I did really enjoy, they were fascinating. Like, they were so damn interesting, and I'm so excited to see where their stories will go. In the next book, another part of the book that I really enjoyed was the world building. I was fascinated with how the world worked and how the magic worked. We still don't have a full explanation of the magic, but I'm really intrigued of where it's gonna go. The next book I read for that was The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang, and I gave this a 4 stars. It was the exact same rating as The Poppy War, so it was a really high 4 stars, like one of my highest 4 stars, but not quite there. And I did talk about in the blog that I have a couple of reasons why I think it wasn't. So the first one was I did listen to the audiobook, which I knew from, I attempted the first book with audiobook, but I ended up just physically reading it because I didn't really like the narrator. And that is the case with this one. It's the same narrator, but I was in a very weird reading mood, so I needed an audiobook if I wanted to get through this. And so I put the audiobook on, and I do think that might have impacted my enjoyment. I don't think it mattered too much because I was physically reading with it, like I was reading along. Like, I think that might have impacted it a small bit, but I tried to kind of like not focus too much on the voices because I don't like the voices that the narrator does. There was another thing that I can't remember, and then there was also the religious factor of this book. I'm trying to remember what the third thing was. I can't remember what the third thing was. I also disliked the religious kind of aspects in this book. I keep forgetting to tell you what these books are about. Oh my god. So the first book of Poppy War follows Rin as she heads off to a military academy because she has grown up in poverty and she is like a foster child, and she wants to kind of get out of her situation. She does not want to be sold into marriage, and so she goes to this academy. She gets in by studying extremely hard, and life does not get easier for her here. And then war comes, and no one could have like trained them for what war is actually like, and that's kind of a big theme in the first book and also in the second book. And so yeah, so like the impacts of everything that happened in the first book are explored in here, and how it affects the characters and the world. And I really enjoyed that. This is so damn brutal. Like, you are constantly afraid for these characters. She just so easily kills people off. I don't like it. Rin is a fascinating character. She is so self-absorbed and selfish sometimes that she cannot think of anything except for her own revenge and what she wants and her own power, and she forgets that she has a lot of people relying on her. But then she has some really, in this book, she does have some really good moments of realization, and I'm very interested in where the third book will take that. And as I said, my main issues were probably the narrator, and also like there is a plot where there's people from the West, and they come and they're like preaching their religion, and they're saying that they will help, but you need to do this, and they're kind of, you know, they think that Rin's people are lesser because how could they possibly be equal or superior to the white people and all of that. I thought like the conversations brilliant, and obviously very much a reflection on history, but they were talking about their god and how obviously their god is the one true god, and that was where my issues lie. And again, this was another thing that was just complete personal preference for me, is that I just don't care about talk of religion, especially if it's like fictional Christianity or real Christianity. I don't care. I went to a Catholic school, I grew up in a Catholic country, I have heard it all before. I'm no longer Catholic. I haven't been since I was a child, when, you know, it was just taught like, yes, of course this is true. What else would be true? And so when like they were like giving, so when like a character in here was like giving Rin the whole spiel, like there's just like so much chaos in the world. How is it possible that the world could be made so perfectly unless there was a god? I was just like, oh my god, get me out of here. So yeah, but again, that is another thing that is just definitely a personal preference, and I do think the religion talk in here was done well, and I really enjoyed where the plot went and how it ended, and I'm so excited for the third book, though I do think the religion talk might continue in there, which makes me a little nervous, but I'm not sure. I'm definitely thinking that there's going to be a lot of scheming and all of that in the third book, which I am definitely interested in. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about, and the last book that I read for the Reading Books by Rebecca blog, was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. It was 1 point off being a 2 stars. I just really didn't care for this, to be honest. I knew going into it that it was a character driven book, but I thought there would be some bit of a plot. Like, yes, it was going to be mostly about the characters and their experiences and what humanity is, but like they're also still on this spaceship and they are trying to travel to this place. Like, so I thought there would be like a little more, but no. They follow a crew on the Wayfarer, and Rosemary is their newest recruit, and it is all about how they have been given a really hard job to do, and it is going to take a while, and it's all about how they learn about each other and their cultures and how to get along with each other and all of this. And I just did not care. I didn't like a lot of things in here, and there was some interactions in here that I really hated the way they were dealt with, but it definitely had its moments of like, you know, really sweet and thoughtful commentary on just people in general. It definitely had its moments, I'm not denying that, but I just did not care. I did not care about the characters themselves. If I had liked them, if I had liked the relationships between them, then yeah, this probably could have, it wouldn't have been a 5 star, but it might have been a 4 star. But I did not even care about a single character, and a lot of them just blended together. 2 of the characters blended together for me. It was Jenks and it begins with A. I can't remember already. Could not tell them apart. So yeah, so like it was just all of this, and I'm definitely not going to continue with the series. I just genuinely don't care about what happens, and I don't even think it follows these characters anyway, so meh. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.